We have earnings from pharmaceutical giants Merck and Pfizer here this morning. So let's talk about what they reported with our Anjalee Khemlani, who covers healthcare. Anjalee, what stands out to you from these two companies?
Well, definitely a lot on the table for both companies, as you mentioned, both really big. But I think what's really interesting is the impact of the COVID decline in demand on both companies. Let's start off with Merck, which reported a 3% increase in revenue, but that is ex-COVID is 14% increase, which is pretty huge. They've also upgraded their guidance by about $800 million for the year. And let's not forget, they also acquired Prometheus. So that has had an impact on their quarter. And in addition, for the rest of the year, they did bring in $15 billion in revenues. Interesting to see that decline, like I mentioned, on the COVID product. They specifically only have the treatment, which saw an 83% decline. Meanwhile, positives are Keytruda and Gardasil really driving the profits there. Gardasil is that HPV vaccine. They actually saw strong demand ex-US. So that's, you're looking in China, for example, a really strong market for them. And then their blockbuster, of course, Keytruda. They do have that LOE in 2028, so that loss of exclusivity that they're expecting. And they are prepared for that generic competition then. And that sort of is where Prometheus fits into that pipeline. So that small amount of impact from both the COVID part and the acquisition is kind of what's weighing on them today. Meanwhile, Pfizer, we know they are the number one for that COVID vaccine and as well as the treatment. A lot of impact there, 53% revenue decline, again, because of such a strong year last year based on just the COVID products. So without that, they've seen a bit of an increase there and in both in the revenues, and they did have to reduce the outlook for 2023. So that has been something that the analysts have looked at when it comes to what that means. It's a reduction, of course, based on COVID, but also we saw them kind of trying to boost their pipeline for the short term with Seagen and that big acquisition. So they're also looking at long term what their pipeline is going to look like. So all told, really a mixed quarter for Pfizer, strong quarter for Merck, really broadly speaking. And also another note for Pfizer, they did get their approval for their RSV vaccine for 60 and older, but they're seeing possibly a little bit less of a market than they expected based on what they think the CDC is going to guide for it. So while they do see more approvals anticipated for the second quarter, it's still looking, like you saw on your screen just now, a little bit mixed for Pfizer, but good news for Merck.
Yeah, definitely. We'll continue to watch them. Anjalee Khemlani, thank you so much for giving us the big picture on those two stocks.